Excuse me. Good day. Welcome to a Canadian moment. um, this game I'm live streaming is not particularly entertaining live stream, to be honest, but it's a quiet one. And I want to take this minute to talk about the going-ons in Canada. A little bit addressing all of the West, to be honest. Excuse me, I'm gonna turn down the volume of this actually. Oh wow, I didn't know I can change my zoom. The music might actually be nice for the conversation. Go with some mellow music while we talk about the goings on. So we've been dealing with socialist problems in Canada for a long time now. Where, I mean, we're not communists out here, right? We're part of the same system as America, but we want to recognize that people need to be considered more than just the market. We wanted people to keep in mind that we're dealing with human beings here, not with numbers shuffled around on a board. And we've kind of developed a country based on that idea. But we also gotta be honest about what our country is. It's a country that's based on fairness and open-mindedness. But it's a country that's never been aggressive. And so we should really recognize that. And we are in the real world, and there's aggressive things in the real world. North America is what we are, and the Americans is a part of us. And what they're doing is important. What happens in America happens in Canada. For instance, the Yellow Vest movement from Paris has come out here. And it's come out here. I would have preferred it if Canadians had done its own thing. Like, there's been a lot of unrest in Canada, a lot of uncertainty because of our government. And we see what goes on in Paris, and we see that the people in Paris are fighting off the government, what we see as government tyranny. And we're dealing with that with Justin Trudeau. He's pretty much just decided he's going to make his own laws willy-nilly. He doesn't really care about what we think. So, in order to express our feelings, we see what goes on in Paris, and we kind of adopt what they're doing, kind of like a really cool fashion, you know, an outfit that everybody wants to try out. But that's not how it works, because we get associated with that movement, and we're not that movement. I'm not saying that movement shouldn't exist. I don't know really, well, I can't say I don't know really much about it. I do know, I'm learning a lot about it because of the fact that we're mimicking it. And I think it's important that if we're going to mimic something from another part of the world, we should at least understand what that something is. And it doesn't seem like anybody cares about what that something is. All they know is that the Yellow Vest movement pisses off the government, so we're going to do that too, because we're pissed at the government. It makes sense, but it's not a good idea. If you are angry because Tim Hortons employee keeps on getting your coffee wrong, throwing the coffee in that employee's face doesn't solve anything. It might make sense that you're angry, but that doesn't mean you should do that. That's bad. It doesn't solve anything. And I think what we need to start doing is considering what solves things. The Yellow Vest movement is important in Canada because it's Canadians' time to say that we don't like this. You're doing something wrong, and we want it to stop. And it's a movement that's getting big, and that's what's important about it. But it's also starting to get associated with bad things. Bad things that are being caused in Paris. And it's already, I can see the problems. But even that isn't the only issue. I started off by saying that the Yellow Vest movement has moved into Canada, but I brought that up for a reason. To tie in, to begin with, what happens when America happens in Canada. The Yellow Vests are protesting against our government misusing its station. It uses our money in ways that we don't agree with, not just in, like, we were very upset with our government throwing our money away to help terrorists from that have hurt our neighbors. I'm I'm speaking specifically about a case where a Canadian citizen was held in Guantanamo Bay. He's a Canadian Afghani citizen, and it was because he was in Afghanistan with a bunch of terrorists and he had attacked American soldiers. So the Americans had apprehended him. The American soldiers had apprehended him. Some of them were injured too because he himself had thrown a grenade, injuring American soldiers. They had apprehended him. They put him in Guantanamo Bay. Our prime minister, in all his wisdom, used his power to initially get the Canadian citizen out of Guantanamo Bay, and he also gave $1.5 million of reparations to the Canadian citizen. My problem is this Canadian citizen, I don't care what his citizenry is, had committed terrorist acts and had attacked American soldiers. And in my opinion, we don't extradite terrorists, especially not ones that attack our neighbors. And this is an opinion that's held by most Canadians. But as you might have noticed, it didn't seem to matter. It seems like our country did what it wanted to do anyway, despite what Canadians felt. And that goes on for a number of things. The UN Migration Act that we signed in July. We didn't find out about the UN Migration Act even existing until November, December. And this is something we're planning for a very long time. I don't know how long exactly, but I did notice somebody was hinting that this might have been going on for over 30 years, this entire UN Migration Act. And that's corrupt as hell to not even consider what the citizens of the country might want. You see, what the UN Migration Act does is it makes that any immigrants in your country, doesn't matter if they're legal or illegal, are afforded the same rights as the people that are citizens of that country. Which means all those Mexicans, or not Mexicans, but those illegal immigrants from Honduras, I think it is, that have been crossing through Mexico into America, when they in turn start fleeing from America into Canada, because we won't stop them, because we have open borders, we give them our socialized health care. We give them the ability to vote in our legal system, in our government system. We give them all kinds of rights. Now, not only is this scary from the perspective of your friendly Hondurans over there. You see, I don't think it's right that they get a short pass into our country just by walking through Niagara Falls. I don't think that's right. But that doesn't scare me. What scares me is the 2.7 million Muslims that we have moved over to our country that are still in the process of moving here, who will have the rights that I was just discussing. That's really scary, because we got a group called the Islamic Party of Ontario that's running in Ontario, and probably is not going to make it this year, but who knows what will happen in 4 years when all these new immigrants come here that can vote. Well, I have a couple of guesses what's going to happen, but I don't think any of them are going to make me feel very well. And if you watch what these people are operating under, they're not saying we want to be part of the same governing system as Canada for Canada. No, they want things like Sharia law and stuff like that. And I don't understand why this is good for Canada. And I also don't understand why this is good for America. I don't see how America is going to be comfortable with Islamic parties developing in Canada. They're certainly not comfortable with it taking over London. Not if you pay attention to the news. So what we're doing here is very bad for our country, and it's very bad for our neighbors, and it makes everybody very antsy and uncomfortable. And I don't know why we're doing it. When you look at the heads of these groups, though, you could see that they all seem to be part of movements that tend to cause distress in a government system. And that makes me uncomfortable as well. There's supposed to be a big deal happening with Antifa And this is supposed to happen around late January, 21st to 28th, I think. And it should be a bunch of protests. And if this happens, then a lot of what I've been hearing about might be closer to correct than just a conspiracy theory. And that makes me feel very uncomfortable. And I think everybody should be pretty uncomfortable about it too. I think there's a lot of things we should be worried about here, boys and girls. This is about our home. Like, we came out here for a reason. We came out here because we wanted to create something that was separate. Separate from Europe. Separate from Catholicism or Muslims or any of that. Judaism had no home. Christianity had no home. We created a home in the New World. And now we're bringing old world problems to the New World. And it's coming over here because of the ability to move around. That's increased exponentially. Move information, move ideas, move people. All of this has become much greater. I mean, look what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing, and still I'm able to do this. Excuse me. I'm just look, I'm a concreter. I'm a concreter with a geomatics and tech degree in surveying. And I got that when I was 24 years old, and I moved out to Alberta to join the oil sands division in order to become a land surveyor. And because of a lot of the policies that are socialist, the oil field has dropped through the hole. If you want to Google up right now, as I'm speaking to you, news on oil fields in Alberta, you're going to see a very big group of unhappy people screaming that they have no jobs. That might sound a lot familiar. Kind of like how the United States were before Donald Trump became in charge. It wasn't it? Around Barack Obama's time, in fact, for exactly 8 years of Barack Obama's time, there were a lot of people screaming that they had no jobs and they had no money. Donald Trump shows up, and now you guys got jobs, you guys got money, and now you're screaming that you don't have immigrants. Okay, we have immigrants here in Canada. We have a lot. And we have a pro-get more immigrants policy going on here too. You can have some of ours if you want. But I would recommend that you don't take it. In Alberta, they're talking about separating from Canada. They want to become American. I'm from Ontario myself. As I've explained, I went to school, became geomatics tech, moved to Alberta. That was from Ontario. I love this province. I love the people in it. I've been here for 10 years. A lot of people from out east live out here. What Albertans don't understand is people out east know what's going on here because their family, people like me, tell them. And they're not happy. They protest in Ottawa and they get into fights with Antifa all the time. They're fighting and bleeding for us because we're really, really far away from that place. And so they're taking that fight there for us. Never forget that. This is Canada fighting the government. Not Canada fighting Canada. Canadians stand up for each other. We always have. And I hope we always will. Never forget who we are. This is important. And as for separating, I'm not saying the conversation's a bad one. I think the government out east, the only way they'll understand. My father, he's got this idea, right? We got a little bit of backstory. My dad's fighting this thing called the no helmet policy. The sheiks had had fought against our government to have the right to not wear a helmet when they ride motorbikes because of the turbans. And they say that it's against the religion. And the government caved because we're a socialist government and we caved towards immigrants. I have nothing against the sheiks or the Sikhs or whatever they're called, damn it. I don't care. But what my dad's approach to this is, he's trying to come at it from a Canadian point of view. And it's a fair point he's trying to make, but it's a wrong one. And the idea that he's got is that if Sikhs or Sheiks, if they don't have to wear helmets, then nobody in Canada should have to wear helmets. And he's trying to get support for that. But the problem is he's getting plenty of support from the Arabian group that were able to get this law moved. And they're very happy to support him because they first off, don't care. It's not they have no dog in the race. And secondly, there's a big part of them who do like government upheaval. They don't like the Western government. They like it when the Western government's having problems. Excuse me. They enjoy this. This works well for them. So they're very happy to see my dad and other people like him make a big deal out of this. It's very important for Canadians to make big deals at the government right now. I'm not saying my dad shouldn't do this, but I am saying that he's coming at it the wrong way. Instead of looking for support from the Arabian culture, from the Arabian community, I'm not saying you should say that they suck or that they don't matter. He shouldn't be looking to them at all. What he should instead do is look to Canadians and preach about Canadian values, because there's a lot of Canadians whose voices aren't being heard right now, and they're looking for somebody to rally behind. And my dad could have been that somebody, but he went to the wrong group of people. And so whenever now he goes to Canadians to appeal for his cause, which isn't a bad cause to begin with, equal rights is very important, but now he's appealing to people who have wives and mothers and daughters, and he's appealing to those people themselves as individuals. And quite frankly, none of these women want their husbands driving around with no helmet. They're not like Arabians. They're not okay with this. And so you're going to lose all your Canadians that you're going to. None of them will support this. And as much as I love my dad's heart, it's in the right place. And he's not the only one. A lot of Canadians are doing stuff like this. I think Canadians got to realize that they're all Canadians. They're all in this together. And we need to fight for Canadians to be Canadian. Saying Alberta can separate, and if we do, you're screwed, is really good to say. Doing it, on the other hand, doing it, we should consider all the repercussions. There are a lot of people with families back in Ontario. I mean, what happens to us? Do we get moved back to Ontario? Are we no longer part of Alberta? Do we automatically get an American citizenship? Will America take on a bunch of Canadians and an entire mess? Will America take on the Native community? Will the Native community allow something like this? It's a lot of questions to ask. And I can tell you the government will not enjoy taking on First Nation natives from Canada. They did not handle natives in America the same way we did here. And the natives know that, we know that, and they know that. So that entire deal is going to be a difficult one to deal with. In my opinion, Canada should support conservative values and Canadian values and should fight this liberal dogma with everything it can, with every one of its people. And I would hope that Americans would see this fight as an important one for their own business investors, and because they're our neighbors who we love and support and who we hope would love and support us. And recognizing that Canada doesn't get a voice. When you see our government lash out at you in the way that our government does, it's not at our whim. It's not at our will. They do not ask us for this permission. We do not like to see what they do. We do not like to see them messing around with these NAFTA deals. These could have been a lot better they could have gone a lot better than how they did. And there's a lot of things that we could have given up in those deals that would have made things easier on us as Canadian citizens. But because our government is so beholden to our own capitalism, to our own, as much as we like to be socialists, honestly, the cartel behind milk, the cartel behind, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm wrecked. My throat is killing me. When it comes to the businesses like the milk and dairy cartel, the businesses behind like Bell and Rogers, I mean, TELUS. Bell doesn't even exist anymore. TELUS has pretty much just absorbed them. Now it's just TELUS and Rogers. You want to talk a monopoly? Oh my God. You want to get cell phone? All right, go to TELUS or Rogers. Nothing else. You want cable? Shaw. Nothing else. This is really bad. I have to pay $80. No, I'm at $92 a month now for my internet. Just internet. I want to add a home line and TV, it's about 150, 160 bucks. Just internet. My power bill is whatever my power company wants it to be, because there's no opposition. Although they don't completely bend me over the barrel, how they do it in Ontario is much, much more different. There are people, like my father himself, I don't know if he still pays it, but there was a time where he was paying over $300 a month just to turn on the power. Just to turn on the power. He was literally living off of his wood stove because in the wintertime, he couldn't afford that. That was ridiculous. There's too much monopoly in business out here, and we need to get governments that want to break those monopolies apart. This is what America has, and we don't. Your government breaks their monopolies apart. Eventually, when things like Facebook and Twitter and Amazon and all those companies gain a monopoly, your government intervenes and breaks it apart. Amazon will not be closing down all the Walmarts. Trust me. And Amazon's very nervous about that conversation because of that fact. The government would intervene. This is just how your country works. Our country does not. What we do is just pretend like it's not happening and try to make even more money to make up for all the money that we're throwing away. And we're losing, guys. We're losing. We're losing that battle. And we're appealing to the wrong places. Our government's making deals to George Soros. Our government's making deals to China. And us as Canadians, we don't even know what those deals mean. We want to be too nice and honest and friendly. Oh, look at you going. Oh, how's it going? Hey, I don't have any bars in my window. I don't lock my door at night. I really don't. I mean, it really is. We're just in a culture that just tries to be so friendly and open-minded. But it means that people like these sharks that are trying to run our country, well, they're able to take advantage of us. They're learning lessons from your sharks in the United States. We need some of your sharks over here, to be honest. We need our own Donald Trump. I'm sorry, but that's just a fact. I hope we're able to figure it out. Our conservative parties aren't as strong as yours. Andrew Scheer, he takes money from those big businesses, boyos. He does. I know everybody loves him. He takes money from those big businesses. Maxime Bernier would be breaking up the vote. And that's a scary thought to think that Justin Trudeau could get another term in Canada because of infighting in the Conservatives. It'd be much better if the Conservatives could come together and let Maxime Bernier have a strong place, because that guy has a pair on him. He has a solid pair on him. If Andrew Scheer would put him right up next to him as an equal, or maybe just below an equal, or however they want to work it, if they could make that deal, then we could have something worth fighting for. You know? We could have a chance. And in Canada, we really, really need a chance. So, I guess this video is me appealing to all of you guys. To Canadians and Americans. To people in Britain. London, you're going through what we're going through in Ontario. I watch what you guys are going through. Our province is going right there with you, man. It really is. The Islamic Party of Ontario. That's crazy. I never thought I'd see that day. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I just hope that what I'm seeing on YouTube and what I'm seeing in other sources, the Daily Wire is a great source of information. Lets me know about a lot about what's going on in the United States. I really like checking in on those guys. There's a lot of crap going on. I hope that that people like us, regular people, I hope we're strong enough to find the right answers and then stand up for them and stand up for each other. And remember, keep your stick on the ice. We're all in this together. Thanks for watching, and this is a Canadian Moment.